That exit 15 sign, a wooded funnel in the sun, till blue lights flicker through the pines and the trouble had begun. They said no advance notice, a clear violation to my mind. Rodriguez said the stop should end, but they left my rights behind. Now a Stigma-Plus Doctrine hangs over Macon County, Georgia, just a false record publication from the Monroe County Reporter. Got that bare bones total tallied, every last out-of-pocket cent, but how do you put a price on the years of hurt they went and sent?
So can an injustice from over a decade ago still be fought in court today? I mean, usually the answer is a hard no. The clock just runs out. But today, we are diving into a really fascinating legal puzzle where a case, one that seems totally dead, might just have a pulse. Let's figure out how on earth they're trying to make that happen. So, get this. The whole story kicks off with a police roadblock way back in 2014. But the legal fight, the actual attempt to hold someone accountable for it, is only just getting started now. That huge gap in time, that's the whole challenge here. And it makes you wonder, how is that even possible? And this table really just lays out the problem perfectly. In Georgia, the deadlines to sue, what lawyers call the statute of limitations, are super short. You've got 2 years for a civil rights claim and just 1 year for defamation. But 12 years have gone by. I mean, on paper, this case looks completely impossible. So we've got to go back to that day in 2014 to understand what lit the fuse on this whole thing.
All right, so we really need to dig into what happened during the original incident to see why these, really creative legal arguments were even on the table today. It all centers on this one police checkpoint set up on an exit ramp in Monroe County. And right off the bat, here's the first huge issue. The roadblock was set up on what the driver called a wooded, curved funnel. Just look at these images. You can see there's no way to see what's ahead. Now, the Supreme Court has been super clear about this. For a checkpoint to be constitutional, you need to give people advance warning. But here, drivers couldn't see the stop until they were basically trapped on the ramp. That's a fundamental problem from the get-go.
Well, things went south pretty fast. The deputy on scene, Mike Hull, he saw an ignition interlock device in the car and right away just started guessing, speculating that maybe the passenger had used it for the driver. This quote is so important because it was just a hunch, It wasn't based on any actual evidence of wrongdoing, what the law calls probable cause. And that pure speculation was then used to drag out the stop and turn it into what the lawyers are now calling a fishing expedition.
And the alleged violations just kept stacking up. I mean, beyond the lack of warning, there was no proof of a written plan or a supervisor's okay, which you have to have for a roadblock. The driver even passed a sobriety test but was detained anyway. And that detention led to a vehicle search, all apparently without any legal basis. It was just this cascade of failures. But still, how does any of this fix the 12-year problem?
Okay, this is where it starts to get really interesting. This brings us to the first very clever legal strategy they're trying to use. The argument isn't just about what happened in 2014. No, it's about a harm that they say is still happening to this very day, thanks to something called the Stigma-Plus Doctrine.
And here it is. This is the heart of that argument. After the whole incident, a local paper published the driver's name, linking him to possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. I mean, that's a serious felony-level accusation. But according to the legal documents, it was completely false. And that public record? It's still online today, like a digital ghost from a charge that never even was. So what in the world is Stigma-Plus? It's actually pretty simple if you break it down. Think of it in 2 parts. The stigma is that false, damaging statement made by a government official. But the plus is the key. That's when you lose something real because of that stigma. We're talking about being denied a job or losing a professional license, all because of that false public record. So here's the legal magic trick they're trying to pull off. The argument is that the injury isn't some old event from 2014. No, it's a fresh injury that happens every single day that false record stays online, and every time it costs this person an opportunity. If a judge actually buys this argument, then in theory, the statute of limitations clock could reset with every new instance of harm. It's pretty wild. All right, now let's get to the second key strategy. This one is all about the idea that the roadblock wasn't just illegal by accident, but that its illegality was actively hidden from the public. Remember how we said roadblocks need a written supervisor's plan to be legal? Well, according to the driver, they filed multiple Freedom of Information Act requests and got back nothing. No plan. This lack of a paper trail is the bedrock of the argument that crucial facts were being concealed. And that brings us to this legal concept called tolling. The easiest way to think about it is like hitting the pause button on that statute of limitations clock. Under Georgia law, if the person you're trying to sue actively hides their wrongdoing and that stops you from finding out you are harmed, the clock can actually stop running. And that works hand in hand with something called the discovery rule. This rule basically says the clock shouldn't start ticking when the violation happens, but when the person discovers it happened. So the argument here would be something like, hey, I couldn't have possibly known the roadblock was illegal until I got these FOIA results back proving there was no plan. So my 2-year clock should start right now. Now, look, while all these legal theories are fascinating to talk about, we have to ground ourselves in a little bit of a reality check here. Trying to revive a 12-year-old case is an incredibly steep uphill battle. Courts are notoriously strict about these deadlines. For this case to have any chance at all, 2 massive hurdles have to be cleared. First, they've got to prove active concealment, not just that a plan was missing, but that officials intentionally and specifically hid that fact. And second, for that Stigma-Plus claim to work, they have to show a real, concrete injury that's happening today. It's not enough to say the record is damaging. They have to prove it just cost them a specific job or a specific license. So it all leaves us with this really tough question. In our world of permanent digital records and complicated legal rules, we like to think justice has a clear expiration date. But when the harm from an old wound is still being felt right now, today, when does the clock on justice truly run out?